Hey everybody, welcome to an Exit Earth minicast.
Minicast, these only happen every so often when we find something so ridiculous, we have to talk about it.
And we were just about to wrap up for the day after making our TV spot. We noticed this video about a controversy I'm sure you have an opinion
A
on.
debate that we didn't even know existed.
We didn't even know existed. So without further ado, here's the video in question.
This is the video that's going to end the water is wet debate once and for all. My answer? Water's not wet! I'll tell you why.
To say that something is wet means that the water on the surface of that something can be removed. You get caught outside in the rain. You say, oh, my hair got wet. Now I gotta get it redid. Oh, my shoes got wet. Now I gotta let them sit outside and dry. You don't say that the ocean gets wet. It's just water. Water is water. Fire, right? We know that it burns things, right? But it's not in and of itself burned.
Now see right there. See, that's I was all on his water is not wet train, but when he used this analogy right here,
Yeah.
I was like, but we do say stuff on fire is burning.
Yeah.
And we do say
I was just
fire
thinking
is
about that.
burning. I don't know. Let's keep going though. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt.
Right? Water, it wets things, but it's not in and of itself wet. Okay? Word wet is only supposed to be used when water gets on something. For example, if I were to splash water on this mirror right here, I'd say it's wet. But if it were somehow possible to splash water droplets onto water, where you could see the water droplets sitting on the water, you'd say, oh, that water is wet. You know, I'll give an example in a second, because, I'm in a bathroom, got water in the toilet, got water in the sink, shower, sink over there. But the term wet is an adjective that is only conditional, that's used to describe the surface of something that is typically dry. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the simple proof test. This counter is dry. I pour water on it. It becomes wet. Can it be dried? Absolutely. Therefore, it was wet. It is now dry. The water on the inside of the bottle, however, can it be dried? Absolutely the frick not. And in closing, the
Well,
definition
it could be dried. This is called
wet
evaporation, right?
reads, covered or saturated with water or another liquid.
Okay.
Water cannot be covered or saturated with itself.
But isn't a solution
What's the most
technically
iconic Bruce Lee move?
isn't a solution technically isn't saturation a type of we look up the definition of saturate. This is gonna bother me. Not statutory, saturate.
Well, I think his point is that people are saying that water is wet when water is what causes things to be wet. So could something that causes wetness be wet? That's what he was saying. Like, can fire be considered burned when it is itself burning?
I think that you lexigraphically, if that's a word. Let's find out if that's a
I have
word.
no idea what you're saying. Lexigraphically?
Yeah, apparently it is a word. But but I think that like with word choice, I think he's right. Because I just looked up saturate and it says cause something to become thoroughly soaked with liquid so that no more can be absorbed. Well, that you can't like absorb more liquid in liquid.
But
Can
the
you?
The thing is, it's adding more the solution to itself, so it's adding water to itself, so it's not wet. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's already wet.
Okay,
I agree with him.
I think I agree with him too. But that has to make things interesting. So one of us has to disagree.
Well, I was thinking about this argument. I could be completely talking out of my ass, but it's like when you're saying drying something, it's like sand is dry. If you put sand on something, I guess that's never mind. I don't know where I was going with that. But
When I got another question. When is something not wet but merely moist?
I don't know when something is moist, but
Because like sand, dry, mud, moist.
well, I mean, could you technically say anything is wet because it has water on it? Because
But you wouldn't say mud is wet,
I would
you?
I'd say that's wet dirt. But the air is wet.
That is
Air of the planet's composition has water vapor.
not
on it.
not everywhere. Because in Antarctica it'd be dry, because it's frozen.
But it's water.
Yeah, but it's not. The air itself is
The air
wet.
itself is dry. Yes.
Yeah, and in the middle of a desert, there might be like there's a lot less water vapor than I imagine than.
But there's still probably some water vapor.
Okay, now I got to find out if there's like a place where there's no water vapor. Right.
That's part of air, isn't it?
Where there is no
Or is that just a
water
contaminant of
vapor.
air?
Water vapor global maps. They got a map for everything.
Thanks,
Hey,
Google.
there is places with 0 centimeters of water vapor per
Thanks, NASA.
whatever.
Glad your website's still up.
There's a play button.
Oh, we can see the wetness move.
Yeah, see, in Antarctica, it never actually has water vapor, and in the Andes Mountains, but it
Anyway.
and in the Gobi Desert, but it's still they're still there. It's just not water; it's ice.
Anyway, I think we're getting a little off topic here from the main conversation about
Is water
wet.
wet? All right, yeah, okay. So
Water is definitely not wet because that would be adding a solution to itself. So, yeah, unless it's like a lower density of water, like where you see those brine pools where water can float on top of brine pools, then I would say that's wet water.
what?
You know what I'm talking about?
Like fresh water over salt water, then the water's wet?
No, I'm saying brine pools, like the super dense, salty water that sinks to the bottom and forms little pools at the bottom of the ocean. Look it up.
Brine pools?
Brine pools. There's a lot of them in the Gulf of Mexico. But that's just the denser solution with a lighter solution floating on top of it. But if you saw that, would that be considered wet?
No, because it's already submerged. I don't think you can call something that's underwater wet.
But I'm saying if you got one
Can
of those
you?
brine pools and you put it in a cup, like the liquid from that brine pool, put it in a cup, and then you sprinkled regular fresh water on it, it would be like little... It would be all separated and segmented and stuff like that. So would that brine water be considered wet?
The jacuzzi of despair.
Yeah, they call it the jacuzzi of despair because animals live around it, but if they go in it, they die.
God. Well, okay. So can something submerged be wet? I don't know.
I would
Because
say
you
so.
can't. You wouldn't say oil on top of water that the oil is wet, would you?
I think so. Like, I got my oil wet. There's water on it. Listen, I think water it's not wet by itself, but if it's like floating on top of another solution that's not water, then it's wet.
Okay.
Because
I think
wet
I can live with that.
is with water. Like you don't get oil on something and say that's wet. Like you're cooking oil, you spray it on yourself on accident. You're like, oh, I got wet. No, you're like, oh, I got oil on me. You know.
Yeah.
So with all liquids,
Is it only water
it's only water that wet applies
and
to.
bodily fluids?
Those
Yeah.
are mostly water,
Yeah, I
though,
went
James.
there. Because they're mostly water.
But I mean, to be fair, if someone urinates on you, I don't think you're gonna say, "Oh man, I'm wet." You'd be like, "Oh shit, why'd you piss on me? There's piss all over me." Because you don't associate it with water.
So it's just water.
If you spit on someone, they can say, "Oh man, I'm wet."
No, they wouldn't.
They'll probably punch you in the face. Yeah, I agree with his point.
All right.
I didn't know this was a debate, but apparently it's a subject that has some discussion around it.
All right. Apparently so. Well, are we saying on the official Exit Earth podcast opinion
water is not wet.
is that water is not wet? I
But
can hear
water can wet everything
I can
else.
hear Aaron right now disagreeing with us, but like in my head.
Is it the whole like a denser solution of water can be wet?
I
What I was having.
I don't know.
How like, but it's mostly salt. You know, it's like it's a really saturated solution of salt, but that water can float on. So would that water be wet? I think so, because it's not actually water. It's like a brine.
It would be lubricated.
Lubed.
All right, we're getting dangerously close to X-rated material now. So,
Well, I mean, we already said
our
moist.
moist.
So,
our official position is that water is not wet.
but what is moist?
But what is moist? That is the official Exit Earth podcast position. Water is not wet, but what is moist?
All right.
All
Quote
right.
that 2018. Write it down in the books. And that's our closing statement.
Yep. All right. Bye bye, everybody.